CrossFit and Hyrox look almost identical, but physiologically they are opposite engines, and training one the way you train the other quietly wrecks your race. One behaves like a 400-meter sprint, the other like a 1,500-meter run repeated for an hour. Same gym, same athletes, completely different machines. Line up 4 athletes, a sprinter, a marathoner, a CrossFitter, and a Hyrox racer, and one hidden variable decides how each of them should train: the oxygen deficit. Get it wrong, and you build the wrong engine for your sport. By the end, you'll be able to place your own sport on that line and know exactly how much easy volume versus hard intensity it actually rewards. The key that unlocks all 4 is a single concept: the oxygen deficit. At the start of any hard effort, your aerobic engine can't spin up instantly. For the first seconds to minutes, you borrow energy from fuel stored in the muscle. That borrowed amount is your oxygen deficit. The shorter and more explosive the event, the bigger that deficit, and the smaller the role of VO2 max. The longer the event, the more you pay in real time with oxygen, and the more VO2 max rules. Every sport sits somewhere on that line. Let's place them. Start with the sprinter, 100 to 400 meters. This is almost pure oxygen deficit. Energy from stored fuel burned without oxygen. VO2 max is barely a factor. That's why elite sprinters can post surprisingly ordinary VO2 max scores, and it doesn't matter at all. So how should a sprinter train? Around power and speed, not the aerobic engine. Heavy strength, explosive work, short maximal sprints with long rest. A little easy aerobic work helps recovery between sessions, but chasing VO2 max would steal energy from the qualities that actually win the race. Now the opposite extreme, the marathoner. 2 hours or more, and almost every second is paid for in real-time oxygen. The oxygen deficit is tiny. This is the peripheral engine maximized, an enormous density of mitochondria and capillaries, burning fat and oxygen efficiently for hours. And a marathoner needs 2 things at once: a high VO2 max and the ability to hold a high percentage of it without blowing up. That second quality, fractional utilization, is what volume builds. It's why marathon training is mostly about accumulated easy miles, not heroic suffering. The data on how the best actually train is remarkably consistent. World-class distance runners keep around 80% or more of their training at low intensity, often on well over 160 kilometers a week. The hard sessions matter, but they're the small slice on top of a huge, easy base. That pattern has a name: polarized training. Lots of genuinely easy work to build the peripheral engine, a small dose of hard work near VO2 max to lift the ceiling, and very little in the vague middle that's too hard to recover from and too easy to drive deep adaptation. Now the 2 that everyone actually argues about: functional fitness. And here physiology gives a beautifully precise answer, because CrossFit and Hyrox are not the same engine at all, even though they look similar from the couch. CrossFit, physiologically, resembles a 400-meter race. Short, brutal, repeated bouts with a large oxygen deficit. You need real power, a solid but not elite VO2 max, and the ability to buffer and tolerate that deficit again and again. It leans anaerobic. So the CrossFit athlete's training priority is strength and power first, with the aerobic engine as support. The smart move is to build a genuine Zone 2 base in the off-season, so recovery between efforts improves, then shift toward the specific high-power work in season. Aerobic base serves the power, not the other way around. Hyrox is a different animal. Physiologically, it resembles a 1,500-meter race, repeated, a limited oxygen deficit, but a sustained, high demand for oxygen over a long time. That means Hyrox rewards a high VO2 max and a high fractional utilization threshold, much closer to the endurance end. So the Hyrox athlete should train much more like a runner than like a CrossFitter. High running volume, the large majority of it easy, to build that peripheral engine and durability. Strength and high-intensity work matter, but they're capped because too much of them eats into the aerobic base the race actually demands. This is the single most common mistake in functional fitness. The Hyrox athlete who trains like a CrossFitter, grinding medium-hard metcons every day, and then wonders why they fade in the back half of a race. They built the wrong engine for the distance. Step back and the pattern is clean. Line the sports up by oxygen deficit. Sprint, huge deficit, VO2 max almost irrelevant. CrossFit, large deficit, VO2 max supporting. Hyrox, limited deficit, VO2 max central. Marathon, tiny deficit, VO2 max, and fractional utilization everything. And your training should march right along that same line. The more your sport lives on stored fuel and explosive power, the more you prioritize strength and speed. The more it lives on sustained oxygen delivery, the more you prioritize easy aerobic volume. Match the engine to the event. This is also why blindly chasing a higher VO2 max can be the wrong goal. For a sprinter or a pure strength athlete, a bigger aerobic engine past a certain point offers little and can interfere with power. Fitness is specific. The number only means something in the context of your sport. There's a crucial exception, though, and it's the whole reason this channel exists. For health and longevity, as opposed to peak sport performance, a bigger aerobic engine is almost always a good thing. Even the sprinter benefits, in the gym of life, from a solid zone 2 base underneath the power. So the practical framework is simple. First, honestly identify your event on the deficit line. Second, build the engine that event rewards, using the polarized principle. Plenty of easy volume, a small sharp dose of hard. Third, keep a genuine aerobic base regardless, because that's your health, not just your sport. For the endurance end, Hyrox and marathon, that means most of your week is easy running or riding with 1 or 2 hard sessions. For the power end, sprint and CrossFit, it means strength and speed lead with an aerobic base built deliberately in the quieter parts of the year. And whatever your sport, the 2 clocks rule from part 1 still holds. The central engine, the heart, responds in weeks. The peripheral engine, the mitochondria, is the long game. Consistency over seasons beats any single brutal training block. There is no shortcut around accumulated volume. So the takeaway for part 2, there is no universal best way to train your aerobic engine. There is only the right engine for your event, plus a health base underneath it all. A 400-meter body and a marathon body are both correct. They're just answers to different questions. One honest note, this is education, not medical advice. Any big jump in training volume or intensity should be built gradually. And if you're new to hard exercise or have a heart condition, get cleared by a doctor first. In part 3, we go to the very top, the single highest VO2 max ever recorded, which sport produces it, and the strange, beautiful reason the human aerobic engine peaks where it does. It's not who you guess. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Free longevity guide at longevity-performance.da.